house or a change?
Good grief.
I'm pretty sure it's provincial. Well, maybe it is federal. I don't know.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome here, everyone. At this time, I would like to give the opening to Councillor Susan Penner.
Thank you. A couple of weeks ago, Member of Parliament Ed Fast's private member's bill, Bill C-314, was defeated in the House of Commons by a vote of 150 to 167. This bill would have amended the criminal code to provide that a mental disorder is not a grievous and irremediable medical condition for which a person could receive medical assistance in dying. If only 9 MPs had changed their no to a yes, the bill would have passed. If there is some encouragement to be had, it is that the vote was so close. As a result, all parties agreed to recall the Special Joint Committee on Medical Assistance in Dying to provide further oversight to the implementation of MAID for mental illness. According to the Government of Canada's website, MAID for mental illness includes conditions that are primarily within the domain of psychiatry, such as depression and personality disorders. It does not include neurocognitive and neurodevelopmental disorders or other conditions that may affect cognitive abilities. But here's the challenge. The basis for expanding MAID beyond its original 2016 legislation was that restricting MAID to only those that were terminal and near death was discrimination against those who were not terminal or near death. That not allowing MAID for people with disabilities was discrimination against people with disabilities. That allowing MAID for people with a physical illness or disability, but not for those with a mental illness, is discrimination against those with a mental illness. To think that only some mental illnesses will qualify and others won't is to ignore the reality of how MAID has expanded in Canada thus far, with a commitment to the equality rights of all Canadians. Canada is already the least restrictive country in the world when it comes to euthanasia and assisted suicide. And come March 2024, when MAID is allowed for mental illness, it's about to get a whole lot worse, particularly since it is easier and quicker to access MAID than it is to access support services. What message does it send when the very healthcare system that should be providing help, care, and support for living is offering, even promoting, death? The good news is that each one of us can make a difference in our own spheres of influence by caring about those around us, by helping people see that their lives have value, and by advocating for treatment not MAID. What people really need is hope, and that is something each one of us can give to those around us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Penner. Council, we have the agenda in front of us, looking for a motion to adopt. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Swaystra. Any comments?
No comments.
Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We have the minutes of October 17th, 2023, the regular council meeting on page 1. We've all had a chance to review. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Hebert. Any comments?
No comments.
Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. It is a little bit before 7:35, so we will we'll move down to administration, number 9, accounts payable at the back of the book. We've all had a chance to review. Looking for a motion to approve.
I will do that.
Councillor Seaman, second by Councillor Penner. Any comments?
No, sir.
Okay. Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We are still a couple minutes before, so we will move to 9B. This is bylaw 2233, capital development fees, non-residential capital development fees, and sewer and water impact fees. We're doing second and third reading today. Starts on page 10 of our packet. Mr. Worthing, could you please introduce this file?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Bylaw 2233, as you noted, is being proposed for the update and resetting of the capital development fees that the city of Steinbach charges for all development within the city. This particular bylaw is intended to replace 3 existing bylaws, which deals with residential capital development fees, non-residential development fees, and water and sewer impact fees. And City Council did give this bylaw first reading earlier this fall. The original proposal of increasing the fees by 7.5% per year was amended at first reading to indicate that the annual increase being proposed for the rates included within it be limited to 5% per year. Administration has prepared an updated bylaw with those revisions included in the document. Recommendation from administration is for council to give this bylaw both second and third reading.
Thank you, Mr. Worthing. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Swagstra?
I'll make the motion for second reading.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hebert, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We obviously had discussed this at the previous meeting, and the capital development fees, the water and sewer impact fees, and the residential capital development, non-residential capital development will all increase by 5% per year, which is the intent is to match the construction rate of inflation, so that way that is keeping up with the cost of development.
Anything further?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I feel that originally we had looked at 7.5% and we decided on the 5%. This actually gives benefit to people that are looking at building, making it a little bit more reasonable upfront, and also attracting contractors into our community. So I would agree with this.
Thank you. Anything further of council? Councillor Penner?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. When this was brought to SPC, administration gave us 4 options. One option to consider. Obviously, we can look outside of that, but option 1 was a 2.5% annual increase, which was where we were at previously before any discussions. And administration said that that would continue to fall behind where construction rates were at. Option 2 was at a 5%, to increase to 5%, and they said that that won't address the current pressures of the city mill rate, which then would imply that the city mill rate would be looking to be contributing more to capital development costs than the capital development fee. Option 3 was at 7.5%, which was to keep up with the expected real inflation levels. Those are the inflation levels that we're looking at today, 7.5% being probably on the lower end, and then 10% was to get back to where the capital development fees were. It actually says, one of the notes that was presented to us at SPC actually said that 11% over the next 4 years would be required to be able to bring capital development fees back to a comparable contribution to what it would have been previously. In the notes, since 2012, annual inflation rate has been going up by 5% year over year, which obviously that has increased over the last 2-3 years. It's important to remember why we have capital development fees, and capital development fees are there to help subsidize the expenses of growth going to the city and alleviate some of that expenditure onto the mill rate. I think at this point in time, I think it's fair to say that we need to, as council, be looking out for our current citizens that are living in homes that are on fixed budgets, current citizens that are on budgets that are not able to increase their payments on their mill rate, or increase their property taxes. We need to not be just thinking about new people that are going into houses, which obviously, or I shouldn't say obviously, but more likely have the means to be able to look at having a little bit of an increase on their initial budget when they're moving into a new house, as opposed to individuals that are in their existing houses needing to contribute more now as inflation has risen towards capital development expenses, as opposed to those that are moving into new houses. So I think I won't be supporting this motion, as I feel like 7.5% is more realistic as a benchmark for the foreseeable future, not as a permanent solution, but as a opportunity to bring the capital development fees a little closer back into line of where they were while they have been working for the last 10, 15 years, since 2012. So I don't think 5% is enough, and I think it's putting too much stress onto the mill rate and all of our citizens, as opposed to those that are looking to purchase new homes.
Anything further? Councillor Hebert?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The record will show that I voted against this bylaw at first reading, as I disagreed with the amendment advanced by Councillor Swagstra in raising the development from 5% from the previous bylaw in 2014. The original proposed bylaw recommended by administration was to raise the development fees to 7.5%. Unlike the 7.5% increase as discussed in our SPC. We were told that even 7.5 at that time would not cover the development bill for a developer. The concern advanced was this was too much of a jump in developing fees, which may stymie development. I argue this. When one proposes a development, he or she pays a minimal development fee. The developer ends up selling the parcel of land and gleans the profit. Because the development fee does not pay for the complete cost, the city pays the difference. Where does the city get their money? From the taxpayer. I think this is unfair.
Thank you. Anything further, Council? Councillor Stevens.
I'll vote in favor of the motion. I agree with the 7.5% too, but I think going from a 2.5% annual increase to a 5% is the right message to that we need to send to developers, to people that are building. We will review this again in 2027, so we can take a look whether inflation has dropped or not. When inflation spikes like this, that doesn't mean we need to act immediately. What we do need to take is a little bit of a longer-term view on it. But I agree with 5% at this point, and how I see development fees is access into what we have today, into our water and our sewer and our streets. It gives that homeowner or that one lot that's paying that development fee access into that. But too big an increase would hurt our growth rate. It potentially could. And but ultimately, I agree with the 5% over the 7.5%.
Anything further of Council? Anything in closing?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So if I'm to understand the objections correctly, basically the opposition here is that we're making it too affordable to build homes and develop within Steinbach. And I prefer to err on the side of affordability. If you look at the actual numbers, which was presented to us by administration as part of the data, the actual construction inflation rate over the last 10 years averaged out to about 5%. And so what we're simply doing is matching the rate of inflation. A 5% increase is still significant. This is a significant impact on the development fees, and all those costs are passed on to the taxpayers themselves, the people who are buying these homes. And remember, it's not just on the residential, it's also on the non-residential and commercial and all that. We want to encourage development. So I'm not in favor of going more than the 5%. I prefer to err on the side of affordability because we need more homes in Steinbach.
Thank you. Council, I just want to say first off, I'm actually glad that we're not agreeing completely on this. You know, I think it's good to disagree. I think it's good to have respectful debate. I can respect where you're coming from with where the objections are at 7.5%. The reason why I've liked to support this motion is because I feel with other governments, other level of governments are all talking about keeping things affordable. They're talking about entry-level housing, and it's the entry-level housing that is going to have the biggest impact if we raise these development fees to the 7.5%. So I think it makes sense. I agree with Councillor Siemens as well. We take a long-term picture. We're not looking to get back into everything in 4 years. We're looking at a long-term picture because our infrastructure lasts for a long time. And so I think the two important parts of where we're going with the increase is, number one, we are helping to raise, we're doubling the increase that we were doing before. So we are raising more money for capital development fees and for our projects. But number two, we're keeping our city affordable. And that is something we always have to look at, the affordability, the return on investment for those people that are buying lots in our community and building homes. Thank you. Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We'll go directly into third reading. Looking for a motion to approve. Or motion, Councillor Schweitzer, second by Councillor Penner. Any comments? Anything further? Okay. Anything further of council? Call for the, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just as a rebuttal to some of the comments that were made, and second, it is important to also note that since 2012, we have had increases year over year of construction cost of 5%. So since 2012, we actually have been falling further behind, and there has been subsidization into the mill rate since 2012. So we have been falling behind now for 11 years. So at 5%, we are just staying at level par to how far we've fallen behind as opposed to going back up. So it is unfortunate that in my opinion, that it has been put onto the back of the mill rate over the last 11 years, and I'd like to get it back onto the capital development fees as opposed to. So that is why I will not support third reading.
Well, Councillor, I can appreciate that, but then I think the onus would be onto us to review this sooner and get the increases going at a sooner time. I guess the onus is on us, not so good on us for waiting so long before we actually looked at this then. But in this case, I'm still going to support the motion because I think this is the right thing to do at this time. Call for the question. All's in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, we are past 7:35, so we'll go back up to 6, public hearing. This is referring to bylaw 2232, public lane closing. This is first read, and council will be doing second and third reading at this time. Mr. Worthing, could you please introduce this file?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This bylaw 2232, as you mentioned, is being presented for public hearing and for council's consideration subsequent to the public hearing for second and third reading. What the bylaw is proposing is to close an existing public lane, which is registered as a public road, which is at the rear of several properties along First Street in Steinbach, next to PTH 52 West. Notices as required under the Municipal Act have been issued. There is one item of correspondence that has been received. That was received after the council agenda was prepared, and council members have all been given a copy of that letter. Recommendation from administration is that the public lane closure is also being proposed, which is being done concurrently with a redevelopment proposal for another lot along First Street, with the intention for this portion of public lane that's being closed to be converted to a plan of works, as this particular parcel of land is, to my knowledge, always been used as a public drain, and this change is to reflect the actual usage that the land is being used for. Recommendation from administration is that council give this bylaw second and third reading.
Okay, council, before we start discussing this, it's been a while since we've had some public hearings, so I forgot one step. I will close the council meeting, open the public hearing. Okay, council, now we can proceed.
Question?
Go ahead, council.
Through you to administration.
Go ahead.
There is a public drain there. It's a major public drain in that flows through there. That public drain will have to be addressed in some manner. Will that be included in the plan?
Are you talking to the plan being referred to by the letter?
Yes. If we approve this motion, then it's so we can create a plan of works. So is the drainage in that plan of works?
The intention is that there will be no physical changes to what already exists. The intention of closing the public road as it presently exists and to replace it with a plan of works is solely to reflect the reality that that existing parcel of land is currently being used as a public drain and always has been.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Well, before I will ask for comments and objections, so to the letter, this developer is intending to propose to develop this public lane over this drain. So in this plan of works, that will be impossible. Because you're saying that it will stay as drainage as it's been intended to be.
Well, I can speak for what the city knows. And what I do know is that, at least for the 30 or so years that I have worked for the city, this particular parcel has always been used as a drain. The city is not aware of any plans on file, nor has it received any formal proposal to develop that parcel of land otherwise. So I can't speak to what those comments might be intending.
Okay, so as far as the city's concerned, it will continue to operate as a drain.
That's correct.
Great, good.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Through you, so as per the objector here in the letter, his comments, his property would not be able to be accessed, is that correct? If we develop the way it's suggested in here? Because I know the city's done it that way for 30 years, but I think we need to be looking to the future. So is this going to impact the development or his ability to develop that property?
I don't see how, because, and it's not entirely clear from the letter which parcels are actually being referred to. However, there has never been a public lane developed along this parcel of land for either vehicular or pedestrian traffic, ever. And I'm not aware that there's been any proposal or plan of the city or others to do so. And given that proposal, concept, intent is not known, the city is proceeding based on an actual development proposal that was received and considered by council earlier this year to develop a different parcel of land along First Street. And the proposal that relates to this particular public lane closing is actually, in fact, in accordance with an approved plan that council has considered.
One more question, just for clarification on Councillor Petty's question. From what I do understand, the developer that is talking about, like the objector here, does have road access to his property.
That's correct. If you can, if you look up at the sketch that's on the screen, every one of those properties along that particular section either has direct road access to First Street or to Giesbrecht Street.
Okay, so this will not impede his access to his properties?
No.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to ask directly here, like with the letter from the developer, it's unclear. So are you counting this as an actual objection? And if it is an actual objection, does it affect our ability to give third reading if we do second reading today?
Based on the wording within the letter, the letter writer very clearly states they are objecting. So the city must accept it as a letter of objection. Having said that, there is no provision in the Municipal Act that prevents council from giving this bylaw third reading.
Okay, thank you.
Council, are there any more questions on this letter? Go ahead, Councillor Hebert.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to administration, just for a point of clarification on the email that Mr. Weeb sent to us, he identifies being the owner of number 12, number 18, number 24, and number 30.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Hebert. That information is not in this letter.
No, that's, all the councillors got a text message just a couple of minutes ago. So just for a point of clarification, in case he objects later, that we didn't identify his properties.
Okay, so Councillor, any more questions on this letter, this objection? Okay, I'll open it up to the gallery. Are there any comments, questions, or objections to this file? I will ask again, are there any comments, questions, or objections to this file? I will ask one last time. Are there any comments, questions, or objections to this file? Seeing none, I will now close the public hearing, open the council meeting. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councilor Penner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, question for administration.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. To administration, I'm just looking here with regards to the, the sketch. When you have these long, narrow lots and development occurs, I'm not trying to do the work for the developer here. That's not my place to be doing that, but it's more of a question of if it's feasible. Sometimes on these long lots, it is better, it gives more options for development to have a forward and rear access, a forward front lot and a rear lot through the creation of a back lane, which has been done on the other side of First Street for some of the properties there. Is it feasible, or is there a potential to close part of the public lane as opposed to the whole amount that runs through the properties that are not subject to the development plan that is on file?
I would find that difficult to answer because I am also not a developer. That question of feasibility would be something that the developer would have to determine. And based on that determination would affect any potential application for rezoning, subdivision, or development of any other type that developer might submit to the city for consideration and approval. So I guess that's a long way of saying I don't know. Sorry.
For follow-up, Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
And then for more clarification, is it feasible as a city to close part of the lane that is affecting the subject area of the property that has a development on file right now, and leave the remaining public lane that has access to the other properties intact?
Well, the question that you're asking is difficult to answer because the fact that this particular strip of land has always been used as a significant drain for the entire area, it would be, I would say, a significant challenge and effort to redesign something for it to operate as a public drain as well as a public lane. In cases where there is an existing gravel public lane that a developer decides that they want to improve and hard surface to continue to provide access to a parcel of land that they wish to develop, that's a completely different consideration because in cases like that, an actively used public lane already exists. That's not the case with this particular portion of land. There is no public lane that physically exists at this moment.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Council, yeah, go ahead. You have a question?
I was going to make a motion, but
You have a question?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
I make a motion for second reading.
Seconder?
Or we just do more questions.
Councilor Penner?
Well, I'm just wondering, because further up, through you, Mr. Mayor, further up, as he talks about his other developments on First Street, if you could go back to the drawing, where does, because I know some of those properties do have a back lane. Is that correct? On First Street, some of those properties he's developed, there is back lane access, like behind, I guess, Snap Fitness and...
Correct.
Where does that lane end? Maybe we can bring up the map. Like, my understanding isn't, it's on, I don't think so.
Is that over here someplace? They won't join up.
Mr. Thiessen, maybe you could show us both areas and how the back lane works in one and how the drain works in the other picture or development.
can see it now.
No, I know.
That's the drain.
That's the drain.
Mr. Thiessen, where you had your arrow, that's the one we're talking about now?
Okay.
Okay, and the one that was referred to is the one further north? Okay. So then this one where we're talking about has
I see.
never been actually used or accessed as a back lane.
And it would be extremely cost prohibitive to try and maintain the level of drainage required for it to continue functioning and put a road over it.
Yes, Mr. Workington.
Mr. Mayor, for the benefit of council, I'd like to point out the comment that was provided in my short report as an attachment to this application. This particular road closing and opening of the plan of works was identified in the subdivision application 4451-2022-8794, which council has already approved, and it was identified as a condition of subdivision approval. If council chooses not to approve this public lane closing, then that previously approved subdivision may not be finalized.
Okay. Anything further? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. I'm going to try again. I'd like to make a motion for second reading of this public lane closing.
I will second that.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the city manager has explained, this is in a way of fulfilling a condition of subdivision approval that council has already put in place. This is a section of property, the section of land that has never been used as an actual public lane. It's used as a public drain, and so this enables us to have the creation of a plan of works. And so that way the land is clearly designated for what it's being used for. And so this is consistent with what we've already approved.
Anything further?
Yeah, I obviously am going to support the motion. However, I would just like to comment that it is part of our job and responsibility to vet some of these questions out, especially when there's objections, et cetera. So I think the discussion is important, and obviously it ends up bringing clarity and makes our right decision more clear in this particular situation, which is that what's proposed, obviously by city administration, is the right course of action to take.
Anything further, Council? Councillor Stevens.
I'll vote against this motion. This goes back to the development plan. It was when we enlarged, it was approved by council to enlarge the CBD into this area so we could allow a multifamily development. I'm not against the multifamily development, but I am against CBD because of the zero lot line. So that building can go on a foot off lot line. That means it could be very close to the 52 highway. I voted against it then on the principle that buildings like that need to be have a further setback, and under the CBD, the way it is today, it can't. So on that, based on the matter of principle, I will vote against.
Anything further, Council? Anything closing?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in response, I don't see how voting against a public lane closing sends any message on the CBD. Those are totally separate issues. This was identified again as a condition of subdivision approval by council.
Accept. The project wouldn't go ahead if we deny it.
Correct.
Hog in the wheel, go ahead.
Councillor Stevens, you do make a good point. Council, I appreciate discussion. It's through discussion that the reason we're making the decision comes out, and I will support this motion. And I think it's wise to close this lane and keep it as it always has been, as drainage. As Mr. Thiessen has said, it would be absolutely cost prohibitive to turn this into a drain or into a lane in any way, because we would not get the drainage that is needed for that area. Steinbach is flat. We need as much drainage as possible. We cannot be cementing over drains and driving over there when the neighborhood will then be prone to flooding. So I think this is the wise thing to do. I do believe that the back lanes that are referenced by the developer, very different situation, and two different comparables. This doesn't really compare. So I think the best way to go forward is have second reading and move this project forward. Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We'll go directly into third reading. Looking for a motion to approve third reading. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Penner. Go ahead,
Thank
Councillor.
you, Mr. Mayor. No further comment.
Anything further of council? Nothing in closing. Call for the question. All those in favor of third reading? Opposed? That is carried. 9C, excavator license. That is on page 38. Looking for a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Oh, Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Siemens.
I've got to make some motion to approve something today, so I will motion to
Yeah.
approve.
Anything further? Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried.
You could vote against out of principle.
Excuse me. We have business licenses on page 39. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Siemens, second by Councillor Hebert. Any comments? Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Number 10, council question period. Is there any questions of council today? Councillor Siemens.
Oh, one more issue. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to administration. I'm getting lots of complaints about the corner of Hespeler and Lone Boulevard regarding traffic concerns that, and the request is that the city should again look at putting up stop signs. There's 2 or 3 times a day where the traffic gets backed up. In the afternoon, it often gets backed up all the way from the corner of Hesper and Lone all the way through to Lindenhurst because of people cannot make a left-hand turn onto Lone Boulevard off of, or onto Hespeler off of, oh, let me get this straight, off of Hespeler onto Lone Boulevard. And that is an ongoing concern. We've heard this for a while. We've brought it up in the past, and our engineering reports tell us that traffic counts tell us that there are no stop signs needed, no devices needed. I personally think that it should be a traffic circle, but we won't get into that today. But the issue overall is that it's slowing down traffic, and I think we need to review it. We're not traffic engineers as a council, but we do listen to the people that drive through that area regularly. Is there any point of getting engineering to file a report with council on that intersection again?
I could certainly request that, that the intersection be reviewed. The city did include that intersection for, I believe it was a 4-year period from 2016 through 2019 as far as its annual traffic count program. In every year of that count program, that intersection level of service for turning movements was found to be operating within the tolerance limits and expected level of service for an intersection of that type. I presume from what you're hearing from the public indicates that there are some very particular times of the day where that traffic volumes have increased greater than perhaps what may have been observed during the study period and study times. Again, because they're very limited in scope. But if that is the direction of council to receive further information and a report of an updated traffic count, that's one particular option. How that gets done could be determined by administration, but administration would await direction from council if you want something specific like that.
I got a question for you, Councillor Siemens. Is there any times that you would request or have, I guess recommend that administration monitor? Maybe that could be the case here too.
I think it is. I think it's certain times of day, certainly. When school lets out, so I would say between 3:30 and 4:30 in the afternoon. It's an issue at noon hour as well. And I would say it's an issue at 9 o'clock in the morning. But the biggest issue is later in the afternoon, between 3:30 and 4:30 would be approximate times that there's generally is an issue there. And so how do we deal with that?
This is what you're hearing from residents?
That's right.
Okay.
And experiencing as well.
Would it be possible to have certain times being watched?
Well, typically, our traffic count program will target peak traffic times, and I believe that is normally between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. On the test days or on the monitoring days. So if that appears to be where the particular concerns of congestion are occurring, I would have expected that the previous traffic counts that have been completed for that intersection would have captured that level of activity. And with the way that the analysis is performed, the intersection, how it's designed, it would have been reflected in previous reports. Another opportunity is if council's interested, I could submit copies of those previously completed traffic counts for council's information at a future council meeting, just to give an opportunity for council to review what has been completed before.
I think one of the issues, as you stated, was that we haven't done a traffic count on that intersection since 2019. And so that's 5 years ago or 4 years ago. And potentially, I think traffic volumes have changed since the pandemic. And I think that could be a concern. Maybe it is different now, but it should be looked at, physically looked at, I think, would be my opinion.
Okay.
Make that recommendation.
Well, council, I'll ask you, I'm looking for consensus. Do we give this back to administration to check it during peak traffic volume times?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I say yes.
If I just may make a comment, Mr. Mayor, and also ensure, because I remember last year observing that one of our traffic dates that they captured was on a Friday, that there was no school. So whatever study is done, let's ensure that it's done on a school day and not an in-service day.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just add to that as well. I've had a number of complaints, but also there's been concerns by pedestrians of almost getting hit there. So it's not only vehicular, but it's also pedestrian complaints.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Warden, we'll give you that over to administration to perform the test on that or observation on that intersection. And then, what I would say is, I don't know if you're okay with this, council, but that we get those numbers together so we can compare the 2019, 2016 to 2019, and we can compare the 2023 numbers as well. Or do you want them sooner?
Whatever is reasonable, that timeframe.
Okay. Because I'd like to see them together to compare them if we could. You know, I think I would definitely see, we could definitely see then if there's something going on there.
Okay.
Okay.
I will direct staff to have a look, and we'll report back to council at a future date.
Are we looking to just gather the numbers or actually looking for recommendations? Because as per, I think, Councillor Seaman's point, we're not traffic engineers, so for us to look at the numbers and make a decision, are you looking for recommendations immediately, or just, okay, there's way more traffic now, so I'm not exactly sure
Will
what the
the
intention is.
report come with a recommendation?
I will direct staff or a consultant to provide that, yes.
Okay, thank you. Good point, Councillor Penner. Okay, any other questions of council? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. 11, correspondence and petitions. We've got A, St. Rosa Watershed District minutes, September 19th and October 6th, 2023. Council, would you like to proceed? Take it as information. Okay. We've got 11B. This is a letter of thank you from STARS for our donation. Council, would you like to proceed? Take it as information. And we've got 11C. This is the library board minutes. This is from May, June 21, July 31st, and October 2023. Take it as information. And we've got 11D. This is the Crime Stoppers Operation Red Nose re-sponsorship. Council, would you like to proceed? Take his information. Okay. There's no other business. Looking for motion to adjourn. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Hebert. Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Next regular council